Hello.
Hey.
Hi. I'm Veronica.
Hi, Veronica. I'm Myles.
Hi, Myles. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm really great. Thank you for taking time. I'm very excited to talk to you. And we already had a few interviews with you, for example, when you released your first record or with Alter Bridge on Rock im Park in Nuremberg. I really hope that there are concerts and festivals very soon.
Me too. That makes two of us. I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh.
Me too. But you used your time off the road quite good. I mean, you released with Alter Bridge a new EP and you worked on your new solo record. That means that it was a productive year for you, a good year.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an interesting year because I don't remember the last time I was home this long. So I wasn't sure how long everything would be shut down. And so I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to write. And, it's funny because I was discussing with my manager about it was probably last February, 2020. And he was like, hey, you're supposed to go in the studio in August or September to make solo record number 2. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to have time to write between now and then because we've got all these tours planned around the world with Alter Bridge. And 2 weeks later, the world shut down. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just get to work here immediately, thinking the world might reopen in a month or two, and not realizing a year later, we'd still be locked down. So yeah, I just chose to stay productive.
That's good. That's really cool. And what else do you do in your free time? Maybe any new hobbies you discovered?
Well, nothing new. I tried photography kind of, and I was horrible at that. And yeah, I couldn't figure it out. So I gave up there. I mean, really, without music, I don't know what I would do. But we did adopt or I should say he adopted us, the neighborhood cat, which was wandering around for years, this beautiful black cat. So that became kind of my wife and I's hobby over the last few months, is integrating this funny little animal into our home. And that's been a lot of fun. He's hours of enjoyment just watching him do
cool.
Yeah, pretty rad. Azrael is his name. He's cool.
Cool. So your second solo record will be titled The Ides of March, and it will be out on May 14th. Was it planned for you to make a new solo record before COVID?
Yeah, that was the plan, to try and, because, because my schedule's kind of wacky with all three entities. So everything is planned out like a year or two in advance. So it's like, okay, we've got to make the second record here, the fall of 2020. So yeah, it was definitely planned. But as far as what the songs ended up being about, yeah, it was definitely informed by the state of the world. The narrative was a reflection of the times we're living in.
Yeah, Year of the Tiger, your first solo record, was a very personal album. How about the second record now?
Well, it's personal in the sense that it is taking in what's happening and how it's affecting my family and myself. But yeah, it's not as autobiographical. Year of the Tiger is definitely a concept record in that sense. It lays it all out there. Whereas it's the common thread is the times we're living in, and the word I keep going to is it's a reflection of that from a personal standpoint.
And can you tell us what is the album about? So which?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's looking at like there are a few songs that are have this longing for unity and this longing for healing and compromise and dialogue, the need for dialogue between people. I mean, I think there's definitely a sense for me of where things have gone that kind of break my heart, and I just, from a human standpoint, it's not a political record or anything like that, although people tried to make it that, and it's not. It's just it's the idea of being a human in the times we live in and how to navigate through that. And what I hope we can do as human beings with one another, be good to each other. It's pretty simple. So that's some of it. And then some of it explores the emotions that, we're feeling, being frustrated, not being able to do what we normally do, and how that affects us, and how we took things for granted. There's a song called Moonshot, which talks about how, I assumed I would just be able to get on stage every night and play and never think, that's just the way it was going to be indefinitely. And once that's taken away, you look at things differently.
And while writing these songs, did you sometimes lack in inspiration? I mean, there's no touring, no discovering new places or meeting people. So did you struggle sometimes?
No, I couldn't keep up with all the songs there was so much to pull from to inform the narrative. So this may have been one of the easiest, as far as not, sometimes with records, you run out of things to talk about. You just don't have anything that's resonating. And with this, it was never the case. I had plenty that was on my mind.
Okay. And are there many songs that you did not put in this new record?
Yeah, there are a few songs. There are a few songs that didn't make the cut that will maybe be on the next solo record that we recorded and everything. And also just didn't fit the theme of the record. There was a song that I wrote for my stepfather that just didn't fit the overall concept of the album. So it's good to have those, kind of in the song refrigerator that you can pull from later.
Okay. Maybe also for Alter Bridge?
I don't know. I don't know if any of them will fit in Alter Bridge, and they're also all recorded too. They're done. So I don't know if I said, "Hey guys, I've got this song that I recorded. We're going to put it on the record," and they're like, "Well, we want to play on it," and I get it. I would want to too.
Okay. Did you do something different on this album?
Yeah, I played a lot more guitar solos. This is probably the most guitar solos I played on a record. I think maybe ever. So it was a lot of this was about the guitar aspect, and I missed improvising, and I came up as a lead guitarist, and I wanted to do that again.
That's cool, and it sounds really, really good.
Thank you.
How long did it take to make that album?
Well, it took about 6 months to write, and then the actual recording took, if I'm not mistaken, probably about 4 or 5 weeks, something like that, from when it's all said and done. So, it was still a process, still lots to do. When, because I played, other than the drums and bass, I played all the instruments. And so, the idea of recording it totally live was impossible because I can't, unless I could clone myself, I was going to have to overdub, the lap steel and the banjo, or not the banjo, but the mandolin and all that in conjunction with the electric. So that's where it takes time. It's like, okay, now I've got to lay this part down. Now I've got to lay this part. Now I have to do the vocals, and a lot to it.
Did you record it in your home studio, or do you have a home studio?
Yeah, I have a home studio that I do the demos. So I did all the arrangements and all that in my home studio, and then sent them to everybody. And then we got in the actual real studio, which was all the way across the country, about as far as we could be from where I live. And we actually drove there because I didn't want to fly. Nobody did at that time because we didn't fly. Flying was just plus we could take our own gear, so we just rented a SUV and drove 3,000 miles across the U.S. And and so that's where we made the record, was in Orlando.
That's cool. It's like a road trip to record an album.
Rock and roll road trip.
Yeah. Are you excited to release now your album, or are you happy with it?
I am. I'm very excited. It's just it's always like it's interesting because you put all this time into something and you do it for yourself because it feels good and it keeps you busy, it keeps you out of trouble, and then you turn it over to the world, and hopefully people will enjoy it, or hopefully the songs will there'll be some healing in their own lives with the songs, but that's all you can do. I mean, it's all I have to offer. It's a wonderful feeling though when you put something out and then someone expresses what it means to them, or when you play a show and they're singing it back to you. I mean, that's what it's all about for me. So I love that whole process.
That's cool. So there 11 tracks on that new record. Is there a song with a special meaning for you?
There are a few. I mean, I guess most of them in a way really have a place in my heart, but there's probably my favorite track is the title track, is the Ides of March, because it was the one that took the longest to write, and I really put a lot into it. There were some tracks that were written in an afternoon, and those were easy, but this one was a labor of love, and I knew until it was finished, I didn't have like the record. So once it was done, I was like, oh, and I was happy with how it turned out.
Can you tell us what it is about?
Yeah, so it's, the first half of it is kind of this dark, I don't know how to, the phrase "the Ides of March" is kind of I look at it like a warning, like it's very prophetic of the dark possibilities. And there was so much at the beginning as that song was being written that we didn't understand and didn't know where things were going to go. So that is manifested in the first part. The second half of the song, the coda, is very optimistic. It's the idea that, cool heads prevail in times of change. And that became my own personal mantra to help me maintain perspective in these unique times. And so, yeah, to me, it's really helpful, that song, just reciting some of those lyrics. It's had a powerful effect on my own life.
Cool. So, I think it's a really cool and kind of expressive album. For example, I really enjoy the song "In Stride." So what was your inspiration for that song?
Well, it was initially like I wanted an up-tempo song. I felt like I didn't have enough, and I was like, well, that would be necessary. So I wrote that towards the end of all of this, really, of the writing process. And I didn't even know if the song would make the record. I didn't even know if any of my bandmates would like it or the producer would like it. Okay, so I'm really surprised it ended up being the first single, because when we played the tracks for people, because I kind of lost my perspective. I'd heard the song so many times. So you play it to people with fresh ears and they're like, oh, "In Stride." And I'm like, really? Okay, great. Well, but the genesis of it was really about like looking back at when everything was locking down and people were like running to the store and buying all this food and toilet paper and kind of prepping like it was the end of the world. And to me, it was almost as if it was an impending apocalypse or like the zombies were coming to get us. And so I thought it would be interesting to look at it from that standpoint and maybe try and gain a different perspective. And so that was the genesis of it.
That's cool. So they did this in the USA too, with toilet paper and noodles, maybe?
Yeah, Top Ramen and toilet paper. What they need to do is make toilet paper out of Top Ramen so that if you have too much toilet paper, you can just boil it and eat it. Right. There you go.
Perfect. Oh, that's so crazy, really. So usually you would go on tour after releasing a new record. Now there's no touring. Do you have any other plans, like a live stream maybe?
We're talking about it. We're going to try and tour a little bit here in the United States. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm trying to stay optimistic on that front. And yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll be able to tour across the pond and take these songs out, somehow within the next year or so. But yeah, as far as a live stream, we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, cool. And my last question is with Slash and Alter Bridge, you are also working on new material again. So can you give us an update?
Yeah, with Alter Bridge, the plan is to try and get in the studio hopefully next year and make a record. We've got to write and get all that done first. And then just see if the world's back to normal to where a band at that level can go out and tour. And it's kind of the same thing with Slash and Conspirators. At the levels that we're at, you're going to need to make sure the world's open enough to facilitate a tour. But that one, we've got plenty of songs in the can, and we're excited. It's going to be cool, but we're just in a holding pattern, waiting to see when we can release them and do it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Myles Kennedy. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time. Take care, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, fingers crossed. Let's just keep positive. That's all we can do, right?
Yeah. Perfect. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a great evening.
Yeah, it's 9 p.m. now.
We've still got the full day ahead of us here. So, all right. Well, hopefully we'll see you sooner than later out there on the road.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.